is Sam Ryan Idari. We are here with another episode. We have a guest, Michael Sartain, actually, from the podcast of the Michael Sartain and the Men of Action podcast. Thank you for coming in, Michael, today.
Hey, I like your intro. It looks like Law and Order. Like the way you had the font up there, that was really cool. It reminded me of like Law and Order. That was pretty dope.
Yeah, thank you. That was help of the John, actually.
Yeah.
That we found that name, actually, and we put it here. So, Michael, welcome to the show. And let's get to know you, actually. Okay, so introduce yourself. What do you do, actually?
Well, so the main thing I do now is it's called Men of Action Mentoring. I have a mentoring program where I have guys come in and we teach. So behind me, as you see the Evolutionary Psychology textbook by Dr. David Buss, we teach the concept of networking as it is an evolutionary adaptation. So like the idea of natural selection, we understand natural selection when it comes to humans or when it comes to animals, but we don't consider natural selection in general when it comes to our minds. We just think that our minds are completely shaped by culture and our parenting and whatnot. And studies show that's just not the case. When you take two monozygotic twins and you put them in two different families, you'll find that they both end up becoming sociopaths, or they both don't become sociopaths, or they both like the same kind of food or whatever. We found that genetics actually has way more to do with our proclivities than when we originally thought. Free will is more of an illusion than we thought. So anyway, so when we take that idea and then we start looking at, okay, who are the most successful people in the world? And what is it that they have in common? And then how does that fit in ancestrally with our ancestors 50,000, 100,000 years ago? And we find out things like being aligned with high status individuals is one of the most powerful tools that we have to gain status, right? Another idea would be the concept of mate choice copying, which is a man who is surrounded by a lot of women. Other men want to network with that woman or network with that man. So there's a book by Ashley Mears called Very Important People. She's a sociology professor, and she was at a University of Boston, she's at Boston University. She goes undercover as like a club girl. She goes out to clubs all the time. And she's explaining that these men in the Hamptons who are trying to get into every single party in the Hamptons, the ticket to getting into the party was having beautiful women with them, right? So we say, is this an evolutionary adaptation? And we look and we see in other two vertebrate two gender species, we see that when you have one of the males who's surrounded by females, other females want to be around that male, right? So we see this consistently, so that's why it's a term in psychology.
It's a natural instinct.
It's a natural instinct, yeah, or natural selection selected for this instinct. And also when we see people, again, as human beings, one of the things that makes us different is we're not the strongest or fastest creature, right? We can't stand up to a grizzly bear.
We're the most vulnerable, possibly.
Very vulnerable. We're not as fast as a cheetah, exactly. As far as other mammals are concerned, dolphins or whales, we don't have the capability of holding our breath as long as them. We're pretty slow, weak animals, but the thing that we have that's in our favor is our intelligence, right? Well, there's a couple other things. We can actually throw objects overhand. We have opposable thumbs, and we have abductor muscles so we can walk upright. But other than that, the main things that humans have as an advantage, and sweat glands, sorry. The main things that humans have as an advantage is our brain, is our ability to process thought, and our ability to now communicate with other people and come together as a team. When human beings killed the first bear, the first lion, the first tiger, we did it as a team. I can almost guarantee you. It was people out in Serengeti, and they figured out some way to trap this lion or to hit it, when it's coming out of its cave with a rock or something to that effect. But there was some teamwork involved. And so teamwork is an evolutionary adaptation. Networking is an evolutionary adaptation. Also, when you see human beings like very wealthy men or very successful people, when they say, I have to make a big decision, they say, I have to go take a walk. I have to go take a walk. What would that indicate? Well, if you notice, I don't believe primates have kneecaps. Homo sapiens have kneecaps. There was one man who walked from the Bering Strait all the way down to the tip of Argentina to show that human beings were designed to walk long distances. That's the truth. The reason, if you ever seen long distance hunters, like in Africa, what they'll do is they'll throw a spear at like some like wild game. The spear won't kill it, and then the game will start running. Humans have sweat glands, so we can actually run long distances, 25, 50 miles humans can. Dogs, bovine, all those other creatures that don't have sweat glands that pant, they can't go those distances, and so eventually we get them exhausted and then we kill them. That's how humans were created. Also, we have kneecaps so that we can walk long distances on foot. And so understanding that adaptation, why would a very successful person need to go for a walk? It's because his ancestors would probably go walk around the tribe to make sure the perimeter of the settlement, of the village, to make sure that the enemies weren't there. Does that make sense? Also, a lot of our jingoist beliefs where, pro-nationalist beliefs, my country's better than your country, these are tribal things that come through natural selection. So the idea that pretty much everything we do as humans, we choose women that have fertile features, facial symmetry, signs of youth, hip to waist ratio, the fact that women look for men with, 71%, I believe, of when females rated men as physically attractive, 71% of their physical attractiveness came from upper body muscle. Stuff like that. Like, that's what women look for in men, hip to shoulder ratio and height. Those are things that women find attractive along with their alignment. So some men are very attractive because other men find them to be powerful. Powerful men are attractive to women. Henry Kissinger said, "Power is the greatest aphrodisiac," and then also men who have a lot of resources and money. Now, money specifically is not an evolutionary adaptation because 50,000 years ago there wasn't money, but it was access to resources and the way other people viewed them as being powerful because they had money. That's an attraction trigger for women.
Because they have access to resources.
Correct. And then as men, so what would be an evolutionary mismatch is like the woman who has a PhD. We as men do not, from an ancestral period, wouldn't look at a woman with a PhD and be like, wow, my penis is more hard for her because she's not more attractive because she has a PhD. And there's a lot of mismatch when it comes to that. A lot of women are like, I'm a good girl and now I have my master's degree and I make $300,000 a year. Where's my man? And I'm like, all the men I could introduce you to, they don't make $300,000 a year, so they don't really want to date you. Like, that's the problem. You see what I'm saying? So that we just discuss the entire world as it fits is, we're hairless murder apes, and like, how does this whole thing fit for us? Dr. Buss in one of his books, The Murder Next Door, says something to the effect of like 78% of all murders, if you count like pride and stuff like that, are men killing other men over women. So when you go into things like capital murder trials or something like that, you're always going to find some motivation where it deals with pride or disrespect because of a woman or something like that, or they're doing it for money. But in all these cases, it has to do with either sexual selection or higher sexual status, which causes people to commit homicide. And here's the craziest thing: is that homicide is an evolutionary adaptation. Humans killed in order to protect themselves, and they have throughout history. There were 15 species of hominid on the planet during different points over the last 3 million years, and now there's one. Ask yourself, why is there only one now? The reason why is because we killed all the rest. We outbred and we killed all the rest. Literally ate some of them and probably bred specifically the Neanderthals. We bred them out of existence. So that's the reason why. We are probably the most violent, aggressive species that has ever existed on this planet. So that's essentially what we teach. Now, if you take that and you teach from this understanding of networking as far as evolutionary adaptation and networking as far as like that's where humans were designed to do. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, by the way. This is just no moral judgment here whatsoever. But if you do that, you find it's way easier to be successful when you understand the truth about what the species that you belong to and what people are attracted to. So for instance, I have friends that do long form content. They'll do like 3-hour podcasts, and then they're like, their podcasts don't do anything. They get no views, nothing like that. And I'm like, okay, did you promote it on social media? And they're like, no. I was like, well, do you have like 10-second clips or 60-second clips? Yeah, like, do you have any shorts? They're like, no, my it's for a more intellectual audience. And I'm like, bro, that doesn't exist anymore. That's not real. Like, when you consider what short form content looks like and the fact that there are 2 billion people on Instagram, that should let you know that is what humans are built for. They're built for the quick and dirty. Too long didn't read. Right, most humans do not.
Trend,
the likelihood of humans being able to read an entire book is just so. I read probably 25 to 30 books, or maybe I used to read 60 books a year back when I was in the military. I can't get I have no friends that read anything, nothing. They read nothing. I read Dan Bilzerian's book before, and at least maybe within 1 week of anyone else finishing his book. He said I might have been the first person to finish his book, and we were talking about other people like reviewing his book, and we were joking like none of our friends read, none of them read. And so that's one of the things that happens is that humans were not evolved. Humans were evolved for quick, flashy things to catch their attention. And that's what social media does, is it catches your attention very quickly. So if someone's trying to promote a podcast, they're like, no, I put a bunch of research into my podcast and I have a PhD, and therefore, because of merit, I should get millions of views. And the reality is, no, you're going to get millions of views because Elon Musk is smoking a blunt on your podcast. That's the reason why. And you made a 30-second clip of it.
Wow. That's interesting. You said that you were in military.
Yeah, so I used to. I was a KC-135 instructor navigator, and then I did some counter intel work around the end of my career.
Wow, that's great. When did you retire?
It would have been it was February 28th, 2004. 2011.
How long you served?
So I went in on February 21st everybody remembers this, 7 years and 7 days. February 21st, 2004, and I got out February 28th, 2011. So 7 years and 7 days.
7 years. Thank you for your service. That's interesting. So what's the take out of this kind of rationalization actually, or this studies that you mentioned actually for the selecting the partner or something? How do you promote or help people actually?
So what I want is for people to have options. This idea that somehow we're going to prescribe to individuals, like people don't do what's rational. Obviously, if you work in law, you see people do stupid things all the time. That's why they ended up in the courtroom in the first place.
Yep.
You see people, wealthy people, suing other wealthy people for no reason, for no money. I remember one time I heard the story about Carl Icahn. You know who he is? He used to own Stratosphere or whatever. Carl Icahn was being sued for like $60,000. Carl Icahn is worth, I believe, $14 billion. And he shows up in court to testify on his own behalf because he fucking hates this guy. Like,
and he didn't want to just give the $60,000.
He didn't even want to give him $60,000. That's what called guarding the perimeter. Like the guy had gotten so petty. Humans do things that are irrational all the time, right? They do things where they're overbearing. Is it bad
or good?
It's not. So it doesn't matter. That's the
it's
thing.
Instinct.
It's instinct, but it's like saying, is gravity bad or good? Gravity is fantastic if you have a hydroelectric dam, and it's terrible if you fall off a balcony.
Where is the brain and the logic is sitting among all these genes and the
So it's far behind. It's far. So consider this: a mathematical mean, taking an average. Just consider that in mathematics, right? So you understand, differential calculus was created probably 1680s by Isaac Newton, right?
My undergrad is material science engineering.
There you go, perfect. so Isaac Newton, right? He's 25 years old. He invents differential calculus. Fucking genius, right? But he had Asperger's syndrome. Probably died a virgin. He was so far outside the mean of normal distribution. He's like 15 deviations outside, right? That's him. Maybe the smartest man who's ever lived. But normally, when you consider that, so that's 1689. We think about Johannes Kepler with his laws of planetary motion, and then before that, in the beginning of the century, 1601, Galileo discovering the moons of Jupiter. Now consider that. During that period, at what point do you think someone took a mathematical average? What year do you think that happened? The first mathematical average.
You tell me.
1755. Think about this. The entire Egyptian civilization, the entire Roman and Greek civilization, nobody took an average. Nobody. What does that tell you about humans? They're not created to understand statistics. Humans are so far unadapted to understand statistics. So when you have a couple that gets married and you tell them, hey, it's 53% chance you're going to get divorced, they don't hear you. It doesn't even like register. People don't sign prenups because of that reason. When you say, hey, like you and I are going to start a business together, we're not like, hey, you know what? 38% chance we're still going to have a business in 5 years. Nobody thinks that.
Unless you are a lawyer.
Right, unless you're a lawyer, exactly. Right, or divorce attorney, right? Exactly. But just consider the fact, like how you start, how crazy.
You mean that the brain is set aside completely?
Well, the brain thinks
doesn't analyze that.
The brain uses empiricism. The only existence is my existence. And anything else, or solipsism. The only thing that's real is what I experience. That's how the brain works, because that's what worked for our ancestors. I don't really care about how many humans are on the planet. I care about that lion that is in the forest.
Yeah, I'm just going killing you.
Yeah, that's the only thing I care about is my immediate surroundings. So when you ask people, like for instance, what are you most afraid of? Spiders, snakes, sharks. Okay. Crashing in an airplane, driving a car, or French fries from McDonald's. What's the most dangerous of all of them? And they're always like, oh man, sharks and plane crashes. And I'm like, you are 100,000 times more likely to die from hypertension from those French fries and from dying in a car accident.
Correct.
But statistics don't measure in to the Homo sapien mind. It's very difficult. In fact, people who understand stats can make a lot of money because most people don't understand statistics. They always think that's why, again, playing the lottery is obviously beyond idiotic. But one person wins, and so the rest of everyone else who plays the lottery is like, okay, well, I'm going to do it because that's going to be me, because I have a solipsistic belief that I'm different, I'm special, I'm lucky. And the reality is you are one of 110 billion humans that have ever lived on this planet.
The chance of dying on the car accident is more than winning
your chance of you dying in a car accident is more than you winning the lottery. Exactly. So that's one of those type of situations that humans aren't adapted for that. So we treat Men of Action, my program, we treat inside of MOA, we treat it like a laboratory. We have hypothesis and we always try to disprove our hypothesis. Outside of MOA, we understand that there are a bunch of 6-year-olds with ADD who like watch Logan Paul videos and just have absolutely not to knock Logan Paul, very nice guy. I met him a couple times, but they're like they have very short attention spans. They're not interested in self-improvement whatsoever. And then we also understand that like especially, it goes a little bit further when dealing with people who are famous or have been gifted a lot of money at a young age and never been told no, and also including very attractive women. They have also not been told no. And so for someone probably like you and me, our whole life, we're like, hey, do you want to buy that Bugatti? And I look at my bank account, I'm like, I don't have money for that Bugatti.
I have to work for
do
it.
you want to bench press 400 pounds? I'm like, I can't bench press 400 pounds. Like the world is constantly telling you and me no as men. And so as a result, we know where we stand, right? We know, F. Lee Bailey and Robert Shapiro were more famous lawyers, or like for me, Joe Rogan has a better podcast. I am fully aware of exactly how big or small my podcast is based on metrics that I look at. But if I'm an attractive woman and I go on social media and I airbrush my body and then I snatch my waist and then I use FaceApp to fix my face and then I start getting 200,000 views or 200,000 likes on an image, because of the photoshopping.
Photoshop.
Yeah, because of the photoshopping, I start to believe that I'm worth that 200,000 like photo when I don't really look like that photo. And then so now what I do is I go on dating apps, and every guy I need to date needs to make $500,000 a year and be 6'3". And the reality of the situation is that is like 0.2% of the population. But these women think that they can get it, and that's where the mismatch comes in. That's where you end up with 80% of men on social media on dating apps being deemed unattractive.
That's the reason there are a lot of filters, yes?
Correct. Well, that's
the
filters make it even worse, because what happens is 80% of men on social media or on dating apps are deemed unattractive, and about 33% of men report having 0 sexual partners in the last year. So what's happened is there's this massive group of men that are being left behind because you have these women who have delusional beliefs about how attractive they are, and number 2, about the plentitude of the type of man that they want to be with. The reality is, ladies, if they want to go out there and meet a 6'3" guy who makes $500,000 a year, he'll absolutely have sex with you. He definitely won't be your fucking boyfriend, and if he is, he's cheating on you. And so they don't grasp that. And so because we don't understand statistics as a human society, or
we understand it, but we don't want to understand it. We are shielding it. I think our brain is just trying to not absorb it.
For sure. I think you and I, because of our professions, we have to. But for most people, that's just not the way it works, right? We understand like certain things. Again, when you see the advent of things like the flat Earth people, I don't know if 4% of millennials believe the Earth is flat. They're actually open to this.
Yeah, it's a new trend. I've seen it among some of the friends and the employees, that there are new generation that they talk about it as a flat. And I didn't know that such a thing exists. Yeah. That is a flat, and actually
that people believe it.
Believe it actually. It was so weird for me to say, why you think that?
They believe it because somewhere in your material physics background, you got an understanding of how gravity works. Again, in Principia, that when Isaac Newton writes that, and then you use those models and you find out, well, everything makes sense. Well, I understand that it takes 12 years for Jupiter to orbit the Earth, or Jupiter to orbit the Sun, and 365 days for the Earth to do it, and 200 and something days for Venus, and then 30 days for Mercury. Mm-hmm. I understand these things all make sense using this idea of gravity, and how we have hydrostatic equilibrium when we have like celestial bodies.
How is justified or explained by your theories?
But you understand that. But what I'm saying is, somebody explained gravity to you, and then gravity made sense. These people who believe in flat Earth were not educated to do so. Right? They grew up in the United States. We had a space race with Russia. And so because of that, we educated our populace in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Once that space race was over, we started teaching people about art history. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We started having gender studies and things like this that did not lead to individuals understanding things about biology, natural selection, or physics. And so because of that, or mathematics. But like, if you go talk to an average person, ask them what their zodiac sign is, they'll tell you unequivocally what their zodiac sign is, what that means, and then the beginning and end date of that zodiac sign, and probably information on other zodiac signs.
Junk science you're talking about instead of the real science.
If you ask them what are the 4 fundamental forces in the universe, they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's the part. What is the GDP of the United States? No clue. Like things like that would actually be, fundamentally would help them understand the world.
What do you think that is the cause of that, actually, in the United States? Is it the education system, or it's social media influence, actually?
I think
who benefits out of it?
Well, so I think as we become a more progressive society, and that's fine to become progressive, we don't make it a priority, because one of the reasons why you have a mathematically or scientifically literate populace is because you're defending yourself against other countries and other technologies. For instance, when you hear Zuckerberg or Elon Musk talk about the dangers of artificial intelligence, what's dangerous is artificial intelligence. What's more dangerous is if the Chinese get it before us.
So
we
like an atomic bomb at that time.
Exactly.
Right now is the information and the
correct.
artificial intelligence.
What people think it's what Charles Oppenheimer did was unforgivable. What would have been more unforgivable is if Adolf Hitler had gotten it first, right? And so that's the reason why we had to build an atomic bomb, so it delayed the ability for anybody else to do so. So that's the reason. So when you come to that understanding, that's one of the reasons when we have a race, when there is a reason to compete, which we don't really feel the need to because we're the wealthiest country in the world and social media and all this kind of stuff. And you guys understand the difference between us, our country, and like say the UK or some other country is if a bunch of, maybe not the UK is not a great example.
Our military power.
Well, not that, but if I go to Japan and I was like, hey, I'm a white guy, or China, and I'm like, I want to buy the tallest building in your country. You're like, fuck you. Like you're not a Chinese citizen. We're not going to give it to you. I'm telling you right now, if somebody from Libya offered $15 billion to buy the fucking Chrysler building, they'd sell it to them in 5 seconds. In the United States, we are a whore to money. Anything, when anybody wants to buy anything, we will sell it to you. We don't care where you came from. We just don't care in this country.
That's the beauty of it. It's the beauty of it. That they bring everyone here.
Exactly, because we have the most liquid capital markets. But that's the reason. So since we don't have that capacity anymore, and because we become fat, dumb, and lazy, we don't really have any big superpower enemies. The United States got to the point where we're just like, okay, now it's STEAM instead of STEM. Remember, STEM was science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Now it's STEAM. It's science, technology, arts, engineering, and mathematics. Yes. And I'm like, I love the fact that people want to study music and art and all this other kind of stuff. I just don't think the federal government should pay for it because it's not in the interest of our national security. For me personally, I think that we should, if anybody comes from another country with a degree in material physics or whatever, we should just stamp up their green card and immediately let them into the United States.
That's a problem that my classmates that came from.
Yeah.
Actually, they were having problem to get the green card after the PhDs out of the Stanford. Out of the other places, they were my classmates in
just madness,
in Middle
absolute
East,
madness.
Actually, at that time,
absolute madness. Like,
they have more problem than anyone else.
It's incredible. My uncle was a professor of petroleum engineering at University of Texas at Austin, and he was telling me his entire class, every single person there was Chinese. He did not. There was not one single North American.
My friend works at the Intel and saying what your team looks like. Actually, he was my classmate in college. Actually, in material science, but he is a lead group actually in the Intel.
Yeah,
he said all of them are minorities: Chinese, Koreans, Indians, Persians.
Yeah,
and that's a team that I have.
This is the way point to advancement. Every single problem that we've had throughout history. Again, you all know Harari wrote a great book about this called *Sapiens*. Every problem that we've had throughout history, the solution has always been technology. The solution has not been conservatism or liberalism. The solution is not Keynesian economics or trickle-down economics.
How the policy promotes the science and the technology, that's important.
It doesn't promote. Like now it doesn't. Like but that's going to my point. In 2015, I truly believe foreign servants agencies from other countries started making Facebook groups. Well, we know this to be a fact. There's several documentaries on this. They started making Facebook groups where they would take a group of like right-wing fundamentalists and have them do a rally next to some Islamic people so that they would fight. They were trying to ensue chaos in our country. They saw that we were a country full of technologically illiterate human beings, and so they planted a flat Earth. You'll notice whenever you talk to somebody,
whatever they see on the social media, they believe it.
Yeah, well, people do,
but investigate it to understand it.
Ask anyone who's into flat Earth, they'll say, "Yeah, I started at 2015, the year before the 2016 election." Every one of them will tell you, "Yeah, I got into it around 2015," because whoever did it, some people say the Russians, some people say the Chinese, whoever was making these groups, they were doing, either Reddit posts on 4chan or in Facebook groups. They were making these groups, causing people to become radicalized into things like birds aren't real and vaccines cause autism.
The social media is a new warfare. Actually,
it is. I truly.
And gathering the information actually for the new era of the artificial intelligence, possibly the data.
Yeah, I truly believe that Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey believing that vaccines cause autism. I truly believe that was the result of some psyops that some other country was doing, and they read some nonsense articles online and then started to believe that the reason why their child or their friend's child had autism was because of vaccines, and they just ran with it instead of the understanding that we have now. Like, for instance, autism is caused, it's a genetic issue.
Yes.
We can actually see in vitro genetic markers in children that are going to lead to autism. If we can see genetic markers, then it cannot be because of vaccines. Also, they've taken groups, thousands of children that were not vaccinated and vaccinated, and they check, and the levels of autism are exactly the same in both groups. We know that vaccines don't cause autism, but the thing is, people still run with this over and over again because we have a scientifically illiterate populace. You remember the whole ivermectin thing, ivermectin curing coronavirus. The idea is like, ivermectin is an anti-parasite medication.
How it could
How could it
that.
fix a virus? It doesn't make any sense. But Pete, do you understand when you ask people when they have a virus, what do? They go to the doctor and act for a Z-Pack. No, a Z-Pack.
Z-Pack doesn't is
Antibiotic.
Is antibiotic.
Okay,
It's not antiviral.
what you just said about a Z-Pack, about a virus and antibiotics, do you understand? 99% of the population does not understand the difference between
They don't
taking
know is
antibiotics.
a virus
Correct.
actually infection or is a bacterial
They
infection.
think taking an antibiotics will help them against a virus, and we actually had human beings going on huge shows saying that an
It can
anti-parasitic.
result in it, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean at the beginning is a virus is bacteria.
Yeah, it's madness.
It later can
Yeah,
be
for sure.
inflammation.
Yeah,
and
so
cause
what you're talking about, somebody gets the flu, which causes them to get bacterial
and then pneumonia later.
Correct. Antibiotics can cure the bacterial pneumonia, but you
doesn't.
cannot cure a virus.
The virus by the antibiotic.
The other thing is the RNA versus DNA. People could not understand that RNA and
what's the
DNA were
difference,
two
yeah.
different. The RNA is outside the nucleus.
Outside the nucleus.
It's just brain, but again, a fundamental understanding of biology, natural selection, and physics, this wouldn't happen. You would not see this, but we've stopped that. Instead, we are so focused on socioeconomic studies and other studies that sort of separate people and make them hate one another. That's the thing. Gender politics and identity politics. These are the things that we focus on. And again, some of those things are very important, but not to the detriment of physics. They're not to the detriment of mathematics. It's just crazy to me. Sometimes I have.
You're saying that those there are issues, but they are magnified by the social media.
For sure. Well, that's social media. They're magnified by academics and politics, and then later on in social media. I heard this one woman. It was so funny. She was talking about like why you feel so stressed out, and the reason why you feel stressed out is because you're being exploited by the fucking bourgeoisie or the ownership, the capital class or whatever. You should read this book by Karl Marx called the Communist Manifesto. Dude, I was watching this on TikTok and this woman was recommending to normal people in 2023 to read the Communist Manifesto. Like not as a joke, not unironically. She was, and dude, the comments were just tearing her apart.
Put the part of it as a TikTok thing and put it on there. Possibly is more influential than asking them to read it.
Go on TikTok and look up Communist Manifesto and you'll find this African American lady is like non-ironically recommending that people read the Communist Manifesto. It was just crazy to me that we see this still over and over again. And I promise you, if you were to ask this woman, like, hey, tell me about some of the things that Joseph Stalin did, no idea. She would have no clue. Tell me about some of the things about Karl Marx, like Engels and Marx just abandoning their fucking children. No clue. She would have no clue about these things because people really, what's happened is we have a bunch of opposing narratives and then you just look for things that agree with your narrative. And you don't look for things that try to disprove your hypothesis. So there's too many narratives right now. And people believe that their truth, like for instance, if OJ did or did not kill Nicole, that is not up to me. My feelings about it don't change it. We did or did not land on the moon. My feelings don't have anything to do with it. It did or did not happen. It does not exist in a quantum state based on whether or not you believe it happened. And there are people who legitimately believe they have their truth. Listen, for those of you who want to be rich and successful, stop believing you have a truth. There is no their truth. There's no your truth. There is the truth. That is it. The truth makes you money. The truth keeps you in a relationship. The truth gets you a great job. The truth finds you mentors. Your truth gets you in an insane asylum, makes you broke, and like living in fucking Skid Row in Los Angeles or living off fucking Social Security. The truth is what makes you rich. And so that a lot of people have that problem. And again, what is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? It is an objective truth. This is offensive to a lot of people. It's an objective, measurable truth. Somebody who may change their gender, you still have an XY chromosome. No, that's an objective truth. That truth doesn't make me feel good. Therefore, you should be canceled from social media for saying something like that. And again, I'm so totally in favor of people wanting to change their gender if they choose so. The problem is when I then point out to them, you still have an XY chromosome, then I'm being offensive. No, I'm not. I'm telling the truth. I'm telling the truth, and that shouldn't have a problem. If I say someone is morbidly overweight, and I'm saying, hey, listen, you are at risk for cardiovascular disease and issues with your joints, and your life expectancy is severely shortened. You're like, you're fat shaming me. I'm not fat shaming you. I'm telling you the truth. Somehow the truth is.
Well, it depends on the context how you're saying it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But as a friend, it should not take it off as an offense.
For sure. Whether or not you take it offense that's your truth, right? The reality of the situation is you are at a high risk of
you cannot walk in the street and telling people.
Of course, yeah, you'd have a problem. But that maybe not telling people individually, but making that statement in general is offensive to a lot of people, and it just shouldn't be offensive to a lot of people. That's the part that's just so crazy to me. So that's
I think it's getting better a little bit recently. That people they are more listening. But I don't know. It's changing.
I think a small group of the population is always right on and understands what's going on. But a larger and larger group of the population is expressing nonsense, and their nonsense is getting spread virally through social media. I think that's what's happening. Are we smarter or dumber? I think the smartest person who's ever lived is alive today, and the dumbest person who's ever lived is alive today, because there's 8 billion humans on the planet and 400,000 elephants. We won. We defeated everyone. We have taken over the whole planet until something happens like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us, and some virus or fungus takes over the planet. We won the whole thing. And so because of that, I don't think there's a ton of pressure from natural selection. Again, the idea of one of our ancestors 50,000 years ago just like believing in nonsense, you'd be dead. Anything that you believe that did not increase your probability of survival, you just didn't do it. And so that's the thing, because you think about go forth and multiply, I think was in the Old Testament or something like that. There were 60 million people on the planet when he said that. There's 8 billion people. Not only did the person who wrote that not know that there were 60 million people on the planet, that concept of a billion people didn't exist in that person's mind. The concept of the number 1 billion didn't exist in their mind. And so now we're at the point where we've grown and multiplied massively. And I'm not saying like, don't have children, go have children. My point is we don't need 14 kids anymore. This is not the fucking Dust Bowl where have infant mortality and women were dying in childbirth all the time. We have plenty of people. I'm not saying we can't do more. We got plenty of them. We don't need that many more.
We have enough workforce.
Yeah, for sure.
All around the world.
Workforce, yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. So where are you from? From Texas?
From East Dallas, yeah.
East Dallas.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. And when did you come to Vegas?
2011, right. Well, so I got out of the military in February 2011, and then I moved to Vegas in August.
Wow, what brought you here?
I came out here on vacation one time for the NBA All-Star Game, and while I was here, I remember going out during the week and having more fun on a weeknight than any place I'd ever been. I like being social. I love nightclubs. I don't care. I'm 45. I don't care. I'm never going to not like nightclubs. I know other people hate them. I love them. I love going to see my favorite DJ. I love being on stage with them. I just love the energy up there. People can say how much they hate nightclubs, but we go in there and there's $100,000 minimums, and it's just packed to the gills. It seems like there's a lot of people in this place that everyone seems to hate, And so I just enjoy doing it. And so this was a place where for me it was like very little investment. So let's just say like Skrillex or somebody was performing at some club, I could go there and be back home in 12 minutes. That's what I liked about it. All my friends would come visit me here. I used to live in...
At least they come over, yeah.
Yeah,
so
they
if
come.
You go to Dallas, no one wants to come over.
When I lived in Wichita, nobody would come visit me. When I live here, everyone comes
Everyone come over and never forgets you.
There's no state income tax. There's no humidity. I left Texas because of the humidity. It was just... I don't really like humidity. And then, all that, it was just great. And then I met a great group of friends here. The other thing I like about this place is that everyone here, they promote physical fitness. The locals here are incredibly good shape, and all the women here are just unbelievably attractive. All the men here are like in physically good shape, and so I just like the place that promotes that.
Vegas style, huh?
Yeah, it's a the Vegas style. Like again, there's no even a girl who's like a pit who works as a poker dealer at a casino. They're still beautiful, all of them. Like everyone here is so competitive for women to get jobs here that even people who like work at receptionist at a gym or a plastic surgery clinic, all of them are stunningly beautiful women. And that's the thing that I love about Las Vegas. And I like that ethos here, that people are encouraged to be in shape in Las Vegas as opposed to other places where they're not. Now, during the weekend when the tourists are here, it's just nothing but fat people. Nothing but fat people. But during the week, I love it here. That's why I moved here.
That's interesting take actually on Vegas.
Yeah.
For choosing this actually city for your rest of your life. Do you intend to leave Vegas, or
I don't ever want to live Panorama Towers. I want to stay in these condos forever. I want to buy like 4 or 5 units and just stay there forever. My condo has the best gym in the city, including LVAC, best, including City Athletic Club. Panorama Towers has the best gym in Las Vegas. You may be like, no, Michael, those places are bigger. No, they're not 24 hours. They don't have 2 basketball courts. They don't have 6 hot tubs. They don't have 2 Olympic-sized pools. The best gym in Las Vegas is Panorama Towers. And so a lot of people don't grasp. That's the only reason. That's the main reason I live there.
Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for your takes actually on the issues. Thank you very much. And hopefully we will see you again.
Okay, man.
Thank you, man.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.